Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another Opposition View show. We're looking ahead now to our home game against Manchester City in the Premier League. And to discuss all things City, we've got Adam Monk on the show here, who's kindly joined us from the Manchester City fan page, City Xtra. He's going to give us some insight into this pretty much juggernaut of a Manchester City team and tell us what we can expect, as if that wasn't already daunting enough for us. So, without further ado, we always start with how your season's been so far. You're currently second in the league, of course. Liverpool have a 100% record, whereas you've dropped 5 points so far this season. Does that concern you at all?
I think in any other season it'd be considered a good start, but it's just because of the standards that us and Liverpool have set. It's we've got some catching up to do, but it's early doors, and I think with the injuries we've had, all things considered, it's been a solid start. Yeah,
it's been quite a difficult. Obviously, you lost to Norwich. I think that must have come as a real shock to the system.
Yeah, just a bit. But it's one of those things I think the problem with that was that we didn't replace Company. So once Laporte was out, we had no choice but to play Stones and Otamendi, who hadn't played together for, what was it, like a year or something. And, the way Norwich have been playing at home, all that expansive football, it just sort of, it was a bit of a punch in the gut for us.
Like the sort of stars aligned to screw you over almost.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, after that game, Pep Guardiola come under a bit of scrutiny, but you're always only as good as your last result, as we know in the Premier League. And in your last Premier League game, you beat Watford 8-0.
Yeah.
Of course, you're a great side, you can score goals, but what went so right in that game, particularly given that you ended up 5-0 up with less than 20 minutes gone?
Well, I think that, like you say, the Norwich game was a bit of a shock to the system, and it's given us an extra bit of hunger. And I think we went into that game with a bit of anger and intent. Rodri said after the Norwich game that we needed to kill the next opponent that we played. So I think we went out straight out the blocks. But I think as good as we are, it was also partly down to how poor Watford were. I think after 3-0, they were just like completely bereft of any ideas, and they just sort of down tools. And from then on, it was just one-way traffic. But yeah, I've seen so many games at the Etihad now where it could have been like 15-0, and that was one of them. So I'm waiting for the day that we score double figures.
It's going to happen at some point. I just hope it isn't this weekend. I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, we talk about, I'm surprised that Watford rolled over the way they did, given that they've just got a new manager in. But,
yeah,
like you say, I think a wounded Manchester City, like hell hath no fury, like a City scorned.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Watford. I think it was kind of like a like-for-like switch with who's it they got in now? Sanchez Flores for Gracia.
Gracia,
yeah. I don't think Gracia was doing too bad a job. So unless something happened, behind closed doors at the club that we don't know about, I don't know. But like Sanchez Flores coming in, it just seems a bit underwhelming. And I don't expect much to change for Watford. I think they'll be going down. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a combined score of 14-0 if you want to include the FA Cup final.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Pep Guardiola's took you very far since he took over in 2016. But looking back to that final season under Manuel Pellegrini, Everton actually beat you that season, which tells you how sort of the difference in trajectories maybe since. Going into a bit more depth with the personnel, there are a lot of connections between the clubs, and none more so than your assistant manager, Mikel Arteta. He's widely revered by the Everton fans. He was very well liked while he was a player here. And, of course, with Marco Silva's job not being completely safe right now, there have been the musings that maybe Arteta could be name-dropped as a possible replacement. Do you think he has the makings of a good number one manager anytime soon?
Well, I think if there's one manager that he's going to be assistant to sort of learn from and then become a number one, it's Pep. So I think eventually, I don't know whether it'll be for us or for Everton, but I think he'll definitely end up managing in the Premier League. If, like I say, if there's one coach you want to be picking up tips off, it's Pep. So yeah, I think if it's not City, then I'm sure one of his top clubs to return to would be Everton because of the connection they've got with him. So yeah, I think. Obviously, it's hard to see. It's hard to say like how well he do because he hasn't managed yet, and it could be a bit of like a situation with Barcelona where they went through about 2 or 3 assistant managers like on continually until he got Luis Enrique and sort of then got back to the best. But time will tell. But I think he's definitely going to end up managing somewhere. Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about him maybe going back to Spain to kickstart his career, but like you say, a lot of Everton fans are sceptical, but equally some are clamouring for it. So it's everything in between. You just don't know what you're going to get with someone who's had no experience whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think with Everton, the thing they need now is a bit of stability. I think we'll probably talk about that later, but I think Everton would probably suit a manager more where you know what you're going to get, and they've got a clear vision from the off. So yeah, I don't know if Arteta would be the perfect fit, but maybe it'll happen.
You never know. I mean, it's something that one for the romantics, I suppose.
Yeah.
Now
Michael's getting called. Sorry.
Another ex-Everton player on the books is John Stones. He was signed for 45 million by City from us in 2016. He was expected to kick on under the coaching of Guardiola, but it doesn't seem to have worked out as of yet. What have you made as a City fan of John Stones' City career so far?
Well, I think he's been harshly criticised. I think he's one of the players in the league that sort of most like. I think the media have a tight grip on him, and I think the media have a lot of power over the public's opinion on him. And I think when you actually watch him, a lot of the time it depends on who he's alongside. So it's hard to say. His first season, he was alongside Otamendi and he had aging fullbacks, and he played at Goodison and you beat us 4-0, and he was a nightmare that season. And then the season after that, when we brought in the fullbacks, Mendy and Walker, and he was playing alongside Otamendi again, he was solid as a rock. And then he sort of, in the last two seasons, so last season where we won the league again, he was alongside Laporte and he was brilliant up until February on both occasions. And then when it gets to about February, he just seems to drop off, and then Pep loses. Yeah, he's out of favour. And I mean, this time, the only thing that works in his favour is there's no company to step in for him. So if he's out of favour this time, and our options are going to be more limited as to who we bring in to replace him. But on the whole, I don't think he's done bad, and I won't be letting him go anytime soon because I think he's a really competent footballer.
I don't think you're in any position to sell a centre-back right now, and that was actually what I was going to move on to next. In the Brighton game a few weeks ago, you lost Aymeric Laporte to a long-term injury. How has that injury affected City defensively since?
Well, I mean, you saw the Norwich game. It was a big thing for, I think, the back four to adjust to. I think Laporte's so solid that he gives the rest of the back four confidence, depending on who he's playing with. And I think without him, we are in trouble. I think it's just lucky that we've got an experienced head in Fernandinho who's sort of stepped in there ever since the Norwich game, and since then we've not conceded a goal so far, and he's been absolutely outstanding, as he always is. So I think he's out till about January. We've just got to sort of ride our luck to an extent, I guess, and make sure that we keep Fernandinho fit and just keep rotating the squad as much as we can, like in the Carabao Cup and stuff, and maybe the latter stages of the Champions League group, just so we can sort of survive up until that point. And then once Laporte's back, I think, we can then start to really push on and try and go for the Champions League in the league if we're still in it then. But it's probably the worst injury that we could have had in that Brighton game that affects the squad because we're so thin at centre-back.
Certainly, like you say, you're very thin at centre-back. Even when Laporte returns to full fitness, do you think Man City will go back into the market for a centre-back in January?
Yeah, I think we've got to just because. Well, I can't answer that definitively because I think we've just played last night against Preston, and there's a young lad called Eric Garcia who's he's been coming through the ranks at City, and he looks really, really good. For me, he looks better than Otamendi. So, by that point, we could have, if Laporte comes back, then we've got Stones. We could have 4 centre backs plus Fernandinho. So I don't know if we'll go in January, but I think eventually, whether Stones moves on in the next summer or Otamendi, we'll have to bring in a senior centre half. It's going to be a lot of money because I think defenders, especially after the Van Dijk transfer, the prices for centre backs have just skyrocketed. You look at Maguire now. So I don't know if it'll be in January, but I think within the next year we'll definitely have a new centre back who will be playing alongside Laporte as the number one.
Well, there's been rumours today linking it to Caglar Soyuncu, the Leicester defender. He's been doing very well, so he could be a possibility. Do you regret not getting Harry Maguire?
I I think like most players at United have nabbed off us. He'd have done better at City than he would at United because they're in turmoil at the moment. I think you look at what happened with Sanchez. We were after Fred. The list goes on. I don't think Maguire's done badly at United so far, but I think certainly I think any player would rather work under Pep than Ollie at the moment. So I think yeah, I think I would have. I'm a bit annoyed that we missed out on him because I think he's a defender first, but he's also good on the ball, and I think that's what we needed because I think if he was playing at Norwich, he'd have probably shored the back line a bit more than Otamendi did.
I personally think he would have been a perfect fit for City.
Yeah, possibly.
I think he's made a bad move. I mean, it doesn't suit you being in the position you're in right now defensively, but I think he from his perspective, has made a bad career move there.
Yeah, money talks, done it. That's what a lot of players have been doing when they go to United nowadays. So,
well, ironic, really, considering City are supposed to be the money bags club, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, our highest paid player is De Bruyne, and he's not even on 200. I think he's on about 200 grand a week. We've got Rodri on about 70 grand, who we've just signed as a record signing. Got Edison on 60, so we're just such a well-run club. And you look at United's wages now. That's how they have to bring their players in because the inflation that they've got at their club's just ridiculous now. Every player's looking at like 400 grand a week. You look at what Rashford's on, so it's not sustainable for them. And I think you look at the way we're run and the way Liverpool are run. It's so much. It's better to just rather miss out on players and not like disrupt your wage structure than to just go gung ho for everyone and sort of get a player at all costs. But on the other side, United did have to do that with Maguire because they were crying out for a centre back just as much as we were. So
that is true. But speaking of defensive statistics and that, Everton and City have both been suspect defensively from set pieces so far this season. Do you see that having an effect on how events unfold on Saturday?
Possibly. If we're going to lose, it will be probably on the set pieces, especially now that we've got. I mean, Otamendi and Fernandinho are going to be the ones starting in that game, and they're both about 6 foot, maybe a bit under it. And I don't know how big Moise Kean is, or like Calvert-Lewin's quite tall. I think you could probably beat us in the air on a few set pieces going forward. But yeah, it might just be a game of who's the worst at defending him. I don't know.
It could well be. City have won 2 titles on the bounce. Now, if you won it again this year, you'd be the first team to win it 3 times on the bounce since your neighbours did it in 2009.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you're all lagging behind a bit right now, are you confident that you can do it again?
Yeah, I am. I think we've just got to hang in there until Laporte comes back, like I said. I think although Liverpool have won 6 games on the bounce, I've seen signs where they could have dropped points easily this season, especially against Southampton and Chelsea, the missed chances that both those sides have. So we've just got to stay in there. We can't let the gap get any bigger. That's probably the biggest thing now. We've let the gap get too big already. So, if it gets any bigger, we will be in trouble. But if we just keep a steady pace with Liverpool now up until about Christmas, I think like we did last year, we'll probably be able to pip him again, especially if we can beat them in our games against them, then I think we'll have him. But there was points at last season, like when we lost at St James's Park, and I thought that the title was over, and then that was in January. Then we clawed it back again. So it is early doors. But why wouldn't I be confident in this squad? Because we've got 198 points in the last 2 years, so I've got to be.
It's not bad. I mean, we'd take a couple off here if you've got them going spare come the end of the season. So moving on to the game between Everton and City this weekend, what sort of lineup can we expect? Who's going to play? What personnel and what formation?
I think Edison will obviously be in. I think other than centre back, we've got competition for basically every place in the squad now. So I think Walker will probably come back in. Then it'll be Otamendi, Fernandinho. Zinchenko's had a long rest, so I think he'll be back. So it's going to be the standard back four that we've been used to. Rodri will come back in, who's been magnificent so far this season. And then I think it'll be De Bruyne, Gundogan, and then I'd say Sterling, Aguero and Mahrez as the front three. I'd go for a 4-3-3. I think that's what it'll go with.
It seems to be the usual formation of choice from Pep Guardiola these days. Now, interestingly, you mentioned Kyle Walker there, and you talk about being a bit short at centre-back. Now, Kyle Walker did play at the World Cup for England as a centre-back. Could that be a possibility for City? Particularly given you've got Cancelo now as well.
Yeah, it's a good point, but I think, under Southgate, he was in a back three. Can't remember who was actually at right back. Trippier was at right back. So yeah, it was Yeah, it was a back three. I don't know if he'd work quite as well in a back two. Uh,
Too
and
defensively suspect, maybe.
yeah, that's the thing. I'm not his biggest fan. I think a lot of City fans agree with me. He's probably the one player in the squad that you'd like him to make a mistake. He can be a bit of a headless chicken at times.
I do see that myself when I see City play. I think
He's
perhaps
very
he's the player
rash.
to target to give the
Yeah,
ball away because obviously the rest of your team keep the ball so well. I mean, maybe that's the only reason he stands out in that manner. But
yeah, and I think in a back three as well under Southgate it helped because if he made a mistake, there's two other centre halves there, and then he's so fast that he's just got the ground to recover. Whereas if in a back two, if he makes a mistake, it could be curtains because there's not as much cover. If it's just Otamendi there or something, then that doesn't bode well. But,
well, I think that's an issue. I think I remember the Croatia semi-final as well. He did go to sleep for one of the Croatian goals as well. So maybe it's not as marking suspect as well in terms of being in the centre of that box. It might
yeah, he's just
cause a few question marks.
yeah, it's just his footballing IQ. I think I think if he wasn't such a phenomenal athlete, he'd probably be playing a lot lower down the English pyramid. You look at someone like Trent, and I hate to say it because he plays for Liverpool, but like he just looks so much more, I don't know, intelligent to me, like on the ball. I think he's a lot more technically gifted, and I think that's what Cancelo's got, but I think he's just sort of being eased into the team. And then I think by the end of the season, we'll probably see. I think Walker will probably be second choice right back.
I think the age of the players also suggests that as well. Cancelo's a little bit younger, and with Walker's approaching his 30th birthday, he might actually be 30, is he?
I don't know. I think he's approaching it. I think.
He's
Don't
not
quote me
far
on that.
off.
Yeah, he's not.
So you think Kyle Walker will still be the first choice right back on Saturday?
Yeah, on Saturday definitely because Cancelo's only just started. I think we've got Dynamo Zagreb on the Tuesday, so I think that's probably a bit of an easier game to keep, easing him into the squad for. But yeah, I think we saw what Cancelo could do at Juventus last season, and I think eventually, he's the most expensive right back in the world now. Cancelo, it was 67 million, so I think he'll justify the price tag and break into the first team. But for
Maybe keeping
now,
the pressure off him a little bit by keeping him out the
yeah,
spotlight.
and I think Walker, Goodison's it can be quite a cagey atmosphere sometimes. I think, because Walker's so experienced in the Premier League, he might be a bit better at coping with that.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing you've got to be careful of with Everton is that we seem to do better against the sides that we're not expected to beat.
Yeah, I always feel a bit uneasy going to Goodison. I think we've won there on the bounce a couple of times now, but usually it's a bit of a horrible ground to go to. I was at the one where we lost 4-0 and it was just such a crap day. But like even rolling back before that, like there's been times where you give us a real game and beat us quite a lot. So yeah, obviously I trust this team and I trust Pep to come out with the result. But it's one of those grounds that I won't be 100% confident going to just because of the history there.
I can see why, but you say you've got a lot of faith in this team. Who's the real danger man? I think I know what you're going to say, but who do you reckon's going to hurt Everton the most?
Who do you think? Probably
Kevin De
Aguero.
Bruyne.
Yeah, De Bruyne or Aguero. Those two are the
Well, it's
main ones,
those two,
aren't
isn't it?
they? Yeah,
Telepathic at times, aren't they?
yeah. Aguero is on what's he on now? He's on 7 consecutive
7 goals, top
games.
scorer so far, isn't he?
Yeah, he's scored 7 games on the bounce as well since last season, Brighton. So I think if he scores against Everton on the weekend, he'll be looking at Vardy's record to break as well. So it's one of them. De Bruyne's, after being injured last season, I think he's a man on a mission this year. He looks so
Yeah,
hungry.
he looks absolutely
He's,
unreal so far this year.
yeah, he's just unplayable. So honestly, I think if he turns up, the rest of the squad won't even have to. We'll probably, he didn't play against Norwich. I think had he done from the off,
You
we'd have
wouldn't
won
have
that
had any
game.
problems, I
Yeah,
don't think.
exactly. I agree.
I was actually quite astounded he wasn't playing that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Pep just sometimes does it. He's one of those guys. I mean, De Bruyne played it for Belgium a few days before, and Gundogan hadn't played for Germany all international break. So I think that was probably his thought process. But you compare those two at a number 8, De Bruyne is just 100 times better and more effective than Gundogan. And I think you've got to treat newly promoted sides with respect, and we paid the price for not doing that. But it's
We've
one of
seen
those.
plenty of sides underestimating smaller sides and to their peril really in the last couple of years, like none more so like in the Champions League, the likes of Real Madrid with Ajax and
Yeah.
things like that last season. So certainly can't take any liberties anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean this in a sort of jokey way, but I think we even did it last season with Tottenham because we're so much better than them. I think we went to that away ground, and we played a rested team away at Spurs where we could have nicked an away goal, and it really cost us the tie because we had to go for it second leg, and then we were just so open that they got lucky with the VAR, but yeah, we sometimes tend to underestimate sides and maybe not go for the strongest. I mean, our squad's so big and it's got so much depth that we can rotate, but when Kevin De Bruyne is fit against Norwich, you just have to play him and get the game done. Get the game done by 60 minutes and take him off. It's probably a safer bet.
Yeah, I think one will imagine that Pep Guardiola will have learned his lesson there. I don't think we'll be seeing De Bruyne being rested very much unless he's unfit.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's 100% starting against Everton, so I won't get your hopes up. Yeah, he's going to play.
Exactly. So we're going to be in for a long game. So how do you think the match is going to go? What's your score prediction?
Well, Everton are just one of them where you don't know what's going to turn up.
Don't we know it?
Honestly, they're such a inconsistent side. I think Marco Silva's probably on borrowed time now, to be honest. So if he can get a result in this, it'd be a huge result for him. But it's weird again with Everton fans because obviously we're toe to toe with Liverpool now for the title. And last season when we went to Goodison, a lot of Everton fans almost wanted City to win, and some of them cheered when Laporte put us 1-0 up. So I don't know. I think
it's very interesting. I mean, from my perspective, I want us to win.
Oh yeah, no, of course you should want your team to win at all times, especially this early in the season. Of course you would. But
well, that's what I mean. If even if we let you win on Saturday, Norwich will beat you the week after. That's how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
What we need to do is we need to learn how to beat Liverpool, and that would make a hell of a difference.
You helped us last year with the 0-0 draw. That's probably what won the league.
That's probably the best we've played against Liverpool for decades.
It was do or die, wasn't it, for the stopping them winning the league? So yeah, I don't know. I think we'll win. We'll turn up probably. We've got to, and Everton haven't been great this season really so far. So yeah, I think I'd expect us to win, but also in the back of my mind, there's always that possibility that they could just nick a scrappy win or a draw.
So what are you going with? Score prediction?
I'll go with 3-1. It's 3-1 City.
I mean, I should predict my team to win, but I can't see it happening. I was also had 3-1 in my mind as well, so I was going to go with 3-1 City as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
It does, yeah. As much as I hate to admit it. Finally, we always end on a light note. What's your favourite film and why?
Ooh,
no one's ever prepared for that one.
I actually have. I'd say I've not watched it in a long time, but probably Stand By Me, maybe.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I'd go for that. Just because I don't know. I remember watching it when I was about 12, and it's just sort of resonated with me ever since. Yeah, it's a classic.
It's a great film to watch when you're 12 as well, because it's like a load of 12-year-old lads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then it is timeless. I think it has a lot of sticks with you. Yeah, exactly. That'd be my choice.
It's an 80s classic, and my own is an 80s classic in its own right.
Yeah,
I go with Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Good shout.
So it's never a bad shout.
It's not.
It's always one of them films that comes on of a bank holiday, and you just think, yeah, I've got to stay and watch a lot of it now.
Yeah, I will admit though, I've actually never seen it, but obviously I'm aware of the film. But yeah, I'll give it a watch.
Well, now more than ever, there's a reason for you to give it a watch.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Right.
So 2 80s classics, and hopefully we're in for a classic of our own this weekend when Everton play City. It's a late kick-off, 5:30. Might be a little bit dark by then under the lights at Goodison. Never know what could happen. But be sure to tune in on the Toffee Blues for plenty of content in the build-up to that game and reaction after the game. Who knows what's going to happen. But there'll be plenty of great content nonetheless, so be sure to give us a comment on this video and like and subscribe as well. Thank you to Adam for tuning in.
Pleasure.
And thank you guys as well for tuning in on the Toffee Blues. We'll see you later.